Hey guys, Adam here, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you the essential questions that you should be asking. These are the questions that I ask all my brides and grooms before the wedding day. Now, not only is it super important to be armed with this information going into the day because it's going to save you loads of time and loads of stress, but it'll also help you guide the couple's expectations of you and how you'll operate on the day. And it'll allow you to control certain elements as well without having to interrupt the day at all. So my process is to get in touch a few weeks before the wedding, and in the same email I'll open the conversation about final payments and all that sort of stuff, and I'll send them a link to my online form that I need them to fill in. And the link directs them to a set of questions that are on my website. You could get this information over the phone, or you could arrange a meeting with a couple in person. I do this sometimes if I've not met them already, then I'll set up a meeting and I'll get the form out and I'll fill it in as we're going along, as we're chatting. And if you do it in person or over the phone, it does give you the opportunity to go over everything in more detail, to go through your approach on the day step by step. You've got an opportunity to sell in any sort of extras or add-ons. That's a whole different conversation. As long as the form gets filled in some way before the wedding day, then I know I've got everything I need. I don't need to worry about the planner's itinerary or the photographer's running order. As long as I've got my info, I'm happy. So this is the page on my website that I link couples to. Send them an email. If you get 5 minutes, please can you fill in this form, and send them a link, and it brings them to this page. It starts with the usual names and contacts and dates and all the rest of it. Date of wedding, just to double check, the couple's names, contact number for the day, and I put in brackets bridesmaid or groomsman because I want this contact number to be someone that's going to be close to the bride and groom at all times, but bearing in mind that the bride and groom are not going to be on their phone during their wedding day, so it needs to be someone close by, but not the bride and groom themselves. So it's usually a bridesmaid or a groomsman or something like that, as an emergency contact. I've never, touch wood, I've never had to ring the number, but if in worst case scenario, or I was running late or anything like that, I need to have this number just in case. And then the rest of the form I split into the sections of the wedding day itself. So I've got morning preps, ceremony, drinks reception, evening do, and a few extra bits and bobs at the bottom. Starting with the morning preps, dead simple. Where the bridal preps are going to be, the location of the bridal prep, the address, the postcode, so I know where I'm going, because I always start with the bridal prep in the morning, the hair, the makeup. The first place I'm going to be going to on the day is wherever the bride is in the morning, so I need to know where she's going to be getting ready. Is the groom going to be getting ready here as well? And with this bit, I'll leave it, it could be a simple yes or no answer, but I'll leave it open so that they can fill in a bit of information and expand on that a little bit. What I'm really looking for is a yes. I see in the form that yes, the groom is getting ready at the same site or the same venue, then I'll make a note to go and nip across and see the boys at some point, try and get a few bits of their prep. So then I've got bride and groom prep. But if it's a no and the groom is getting ready somewhere else, or he's going to be in the pub or whatever, then I'll tend to just prioritise the bride and stick with the bride. Got distance to ceremony, just an approximate, 10-15 minutes. How long is it going to take me to get from the bridal prep to the ceremony? If it's anything longer than half an hour, 45 minutes, then I need to be kind of making a sat-nav route plan in advance, but it's normally 10 or 15 minutes, so it's just to get a rough idea of that. Now, the first kind of important stuff that you need to be asking, you need to know this info before the day. The ceremony start time, self-explanatory. You need to know what time the ceremony is going to be, because you don't want to be late for that. But for me, the ceremony start time has two functions. Like, obviously I need to know what time the ceremony is going to be starting so I can arrive in plenty of time to set up, but I also use that as a guide as to when I will arrive at the bridal preps. So my usual rule of thumb is I will arrive at the bridal preps 2 hours before the ceremony is due to start. So if the ceremony is at 1 o'clock, I know I need to be at the bride for 11. If the ceremony is at 12 o'clock, I'll be at the bride for 10. And then I've made the bride aware of that. I've told her that I'm going to be arriving with her at 11. So if I hadn't have given her that information and I'd just said, I'll just see you in the morning, and she doesn't know exactly what time, when it gets to like 10 o'clock and the photographer's arrived, because he or she's got there at 10, then the bride's going to be thinking, oh, where's the videographer? Why the photographer's here? Why isn't the videographer here as well? And it's unnecessary stress to the bride. Whereas if you say, I'm going to be arriving at 11, they know you're coming at 11, And when it gets to 10:30 and the photographer's there and you're not, they're not going to be worried because you've told them 11. So it's just managing expectations. This is what I'm going to be doing. You relax. I'll turn up at 11. And there's no kind of unnecessary worry on the bride's part. I also ask what type of ceremony it's going to be, so whether it's just a civil, non-religious ceremony at a venue, or it's Catholic, or a Hindu, or a Jewish ceremony. I like to know this kind of stuff in advance, because if it is a Hindu ceremony or a Jewish ceremony, there's key religious moments that I want to make sure that I'm capturing for the couple and for the family and stuff. You know, a bit like a ring exchange in a traditional English wedding. With the Jewish weddings, you've got the breaking of the glass and all the rest of it. So there's key moments that you don't want to be missing. So it's good to know what kind of ceremony you're going into. Location of the ceremony, obviously, you need to know the address where it's going to be so that you can make your sat-nav plan and find it. Now, this is the most important aspects of this form for me are because I'm trying to manage the audio for the wedding day and for the film. So one of the most important questions that I have in here is about the readings. And sometimes, you know, so the question is, are any of your guests giving readings? Please give details. If they come back saying no, there is no readings, then absolutely fine. That's one less thing for me to think about. I don't have to worry about setting up audio for the readings. No worries, but most of the time there is going to be a reading or two during a ceremony. So I'm not really interested in what the reading is. I just want to know who is giving a reading. So if they've put in here that my cousin's doing a reading and the groom's friend's doing a reading, then I know going into the day, I'll grab the groom and I'll say, can you point out the bride's cousin, can you point out the people that are doing the readings? And then he'll point them out and I can go and have a chat with whoever's doing a reading and tell them, I'm the video guy, I need to, you know, mic you up, audio, blah blah blah. Because normally they'll be reading off a bit of card or a bit of paper and I can clip my Sony mics to that bit of card or to their jacket or coat or whatever. So if I know in advance who exactly is giving a reading, I can find those people on the day a lot easier, and I can just go straight in with my recorders, let them know that I'm filming and that I need the audio, and it just saves the kind of turning up and going, oh, is the readings? Who's doing a reading? Oh, I don't know like who these people are. So if you know that in advance, it's going to save you time. Distance to the reception, again, just a rough idea of your route and how you're going to get from ceremony to reception venue if it's not at the same place. Again, that takes us into the drinks reception, which is again location of reception, might be the same place, might be somewhere else, but they put the address in there. Any specifics during the drinks, so I've got an idea of what's going to be going on the day. They might have a harpist or a string quartet or a magician or whatever. So that this is not essential, but it's nice to know what's going to be going on during the drinks. And then the next bit is more important. The next bit's essential. Sit down for the meal. So a rough idea of when the guests are going to be called through to dinner and sitting down, and will the speeches be before or after? With any of this stuff, you don't really want to learn it the hard way, and in the case of the speeches, I did, because when I first started doing weddings, I just thought that all speeches were always after the meal. I didn't know any different until I turned up to a wedding where the speeches were before the meal, and I very nearly missed the father of the bride's speech because I was in the other room and I legged it through and started fumbling with the cameras as he was starting his speech. So I learnt that the hard way, because if the speeches are before the meal, then you need to know what time they're going to be sitting down, and you need to be making sure that you're in that room 10 minutes before, setting everything up, setting the audio up, setting the cameras up, whatever, so that as soon as the guests are called in and the bride and groom are called in and they're sitting down and they're starting the speeches straight away, you need to be ready for that. So if you know that the speeches are before the meal, you can make a note of that, and on the day just keep an eye on the time during the drinks reception and make sure you sneak off 10 minutes early to go and set up. If they're after the meal, then of course you can just come in whilst they're having desserts and kind of start setting up then, and you've got a bit more time. And sometimes they can be in between the meal as well. Sometimes you've got a speech before the starters, one speech after the mains, one after puddings, and they can vary a little bit, and in which case you need to know all that information. So that's an important one. And again, who's giving a speech? Is it going to be the father of the bride, the groom, the best man, the kind of standard three, or is it going to be someone else? Is there a bridesmaid doing a speech, or an auntie, or whoever, and someone that might not necessarily be sat at the top table as well, because you need to know where these people are so that you can go and speak to them, mic them up, sort out the audio and all that sort of stuff. Now, I said before that getting this information can allow you to control elements of the day, and the speeches are exactly when you can take control, because if you know all this information beforehand, when the speeches are going to be, who's giving a speech, you can say to them, when you come up to do your speech, are you going to be staying at your table, or are you going to be coming up to the top table? Where are you going to be doing your speech? You can open that conversation with them so you know where they're going to be in advance. But also, if you wanted to control that element, you know, if you scan the room, have a look around, and if the father of the bride at the top table is going to be standing up in front of a fire exit sign, that's not going to look great on film. So in that case, you might want to take control and just grab the father of the bride during his pudding, or, you know, at some point before, and just say, when you do your speech, would you mind stepping out and standing over here? And you could control those elements if you wanted, because you've got a nicer backdrop over here compared to the fire exit sign over here. So it depends on the wedding when I do this. Sometimes I just leave them to it and I'll just film them wherever they're sat. Sometimes it's nice to kind of control it. And the benefit of that is that you can get a nice backdrop and a nice consistent frame of all the speakers that's going to look the same throughout. So you could tell each speaker to stand at the far end of the top table. When you come up to do your speech, I need you to stand over there, and they're all stood in one position so that you can put a camera on the speaker, and it's going to be a nice consistent frame throughout. But also, because they're all stood at this end of the table, the bride and groom are going to be looking towards them the whole time, and they're going to be looking in one direction for the whole speeches. So you can have another camera pointed at the bride and groom, face on, and you're going to get their reaction to everything, because they're going to be looking in one consistent direction. So that's one element that you can kind of control, and having all this information beforehand helps you do that. But yeah, that's important. The speeches and the readings and all the audio aspects are the reason I do this. They're the important bits. And then we get to the evening. Will there be evening entertainment? You know, what's going on during the evening? Any other details? Is there fireworks? Is there a structured first dance? Is there any kind of dance routines to that I need to know about? Is there going to be a sparkler shot? You know, because then rather than just staying for the first dance and then 10 minutes after and then leaving, if I know that they've got something happening at like 9 o'clock that would look really good on film, then I'm happy to stay a bit longer and film that. The only other things I ask for down at the bottom here: name of your photographer, name of the wedding planner and coordinator. It's good to know their names so that on the day you can just approach them straight away. Oh, you must be the photographer, nice to meet you, I'm Adam, and if you've got their name, you can approach them straight away. With the coordinator or the planner, you want to be getting into them straight away and opening a conversation with them, so that when you need them later on, you know who you're speaking to, you know who's in charge. You can just go over and say, you know, I've got 4 o'clock for the sit down. When the guests are going to be coming into the dinner, I've got 4 o'clock in my notes. Just want to check with you that that's still the case, that that's happening. And the coordinator might say, oh, actually, we're going to push it forward to 3:45. So, you know, you need to be in conversation with these people. I ask for their honeymoon plans and how long they're going to be away for. And I put in brackets for post-wedding contact, because I don't want them thinking that I'm like asking where they're going and what they're going to be doing. I don't want it to sound weird. I'm not really interested about whereabouts they're going on the honeymoon. What I really want to know is when they're going to be away, because I don't want to pester them with emails or messages while they're away, but I want to know when they're going to be arriving back. One idea I had a while ago was to try and get some kind of highlights or teaser kind of film, or some aspect of their film ready for the day they arrive back from honeymoon. If I know when they're coming back, I can prepare a bit of film or some kind of teaser or something, and I can contact them saying, I know you're back from your honeymoon, hope you had a great time, here's a little bit of your film just to kind of tease you, or you could get the highlights ready or something, and it's just a little bit of extra value. So that was an idea I had a while ago. And the last box is just a very vague, any other details that I should know about, and they can just fill in anything that I've missed or anything that they feel like they think I should know, anything they want to let me know in that box, and I just, leave it. Sometimes they don't put anything, sometimes there's a few extra little bits and bobs. Can you make sure you get a shot of this or whatever? So I'll leave a nice big open box so that you can add any extra stuff in. They hit submit, it all comes through to me, and then I can have a scan through that the night before the wedding. I can sort out my route, my sat-nav plan. I can make a note of when the speeches are going to be before or after the meal. I can make a note of who's going to be giving readings. Oh, one thing on the readings front as well. If they've got down a bridesmaid giving a reading, this is another important reason to ask before the day. If one of the readings is going to be given by a bridesmaid, you'll be at the church setting up. The bridesmaid is probably still going to be with the bride travelling over, and with the bride till the last minute. So the chances are you're not going to get a chance to speak to the bridesmaid at all before the ceremony starts. So if it's a case where a bridesmaid is given a reading, you need to be kind of having that conversation with her during the morning preps and letting her know, and you could maybe even give her the mic then and just say, when you arrive at the church or the ceremony later on, I'm going to grab you just before you go in so that we can sort out. But when you learn these things the hard way, the bridesmaid doing a reading is a tricky one, because you're not going to see much of the bridesmaid in the build up to the ceremony. You're only going to see her when her and the bride arrives. Anything that you can do logistically to try and minimise the chance of something going wrong there. So that went on longer than I thought. There's a lot of information to cover there. Actually, I could talk about loads more stuff, but I hope that was helpful. Hope you've not fallen asleep, and I will see you in the next one.